I want to start with a question for all of you. Have you ever trusted someone, maybe a friend, a mentor, even a family member, so much that you started to doubt your own instincts, your own voice? It's a really painful place to be. And that feeling is right at the heart of the poem we're diving into today. And let me tell you, this isn't just some simple story about animals. It's a powerful story about us and the society we live in.
Okay, so let's get into it. We are looking at The Frog and the Nightingale by the brilliant Vikram Seth. Now, you'll see it's called a fable, and a fable is basically a story that seems simple on the surface. You know, talking animals and all that, but it's packed with a really deep and powerful message. And this one is a serious warning about what happens when fake authority meets innocent, raw talent.
So our story kicks off in a place called Bingle Bog. And in this bog, one voice completely dominated the night. It was loud, it was awful, and it belonged to this incredibly arrogant frog who would just croak on and on from dusk till dawn every single night, and nobody wanted to hear it. And a contrast here, it couldn't be bigger. On one hand, you have the frog's croak. The poem literally calls it a crass cacophony, which is just a fancy way of saying a horrible, ugly noise that all the other creatures absolutely hated. But they had no choice. They just had to listen. But then everything changes. A new voice arrives, the Nightingale's song. And it's not just nice, it's melodious, sweet, and the poem calls it divine. This one difference right here sets up the entire conflict.
So just picture it. One night, under the moonlight, this breathtaking melody suddenly fills the air. It's the nightingale. And when she sings, all the other animals are completely mesmerized. They're just dumbstruck. And when she finishes, they don't just go about their business. No way. They burst into applause, cheering, "Encore! Encore! They want more!" She's an instant star. But here's the key thing to remember. She is totally innocent and completely new to this kind of praise.
So now the Nightingale is the new star of the bog. But fame, as we know, always attracts attention, and not all of it is good. The frog, whose horrible croaking has been completely overshadowed, decides to make a move. But he doesn't come back as a singer. He comes back as something far more dangerous, a critic.
The frog just hops right over to her and starts building himself up. He says, "I'm the frog who owns this tree," and he brags about his so-called splendid baritone. He even claims to be a critic for a local paper called the Bog Trumpet. See what he's doing here? He's creating a fake resume, puffing himself up as an expert to intimidate this young, insecure nightingale.
And this is his first move. The poor Nightingale, all nervous, asks him if he liked her song, and he gives her this classic backhanded compliment. He starts with, "Not too bad," which sounds okay, right? But then he immediately cuts her down, but it lacked a certain force. He is planting a tiny seed of doubt in her mind. And this, class, is how toxic people often work. They praise you just enough to get you to trust them, and then they start to take control.
So how does the Nightingale react? Well, she falls for it, completely. She doesn't see the manipulation at all. She's just starstruck. She thinks she's met a true musical genius, a great critic. She even calls him Mozart in disguise. And this right here is the most important thing to understand about her. Her talent is huge, but her biggest weakness, her fatal flaw, is her complete lack of self-confidence.
The frog sees this weakness immediately, and he pounces on the opportunity. He offers to train her, to make her a real winner. And the Nightingale, who is just desperate for approval from this so-called expert, she eagerly agrees. But his help isn't about helping her at all. It's about exploiting her.
I mean, just look at his training regimen. He makes her practice for 6 hours straight. He forces her to sing out in the cold, miserable, pouring rain. And all the while, he's just scolding her and tearing her down. And what's the result? Her beautiful, natural voice, it becomes tired, hoarse, and weak. He is literally destroying the very gift that made her so special in the first place.
And while he is breaking her spirit and her voice, what is he doing? Oh, he's getting rich. He starts organizing these big concerts, and the poem says he counted heads and charged admission. Her beautiful art, her passion, has now become his business. This is a perfect example of the commercialization of art.
And at first, this business model is a huge success. All the animals from the bog flock to hear her, and the ticket sales go through the roof. But as his awful training continues, her voice just becomes tired and uninspired. The songs aren't filled with real feeling anymore. They're just mechanical. And of course, the audience gets bored. The ticket sales crash, and the crowds just disappear.
And this, I think, is maybe the saddest part of the whole poem.
The nightingale has completely lost that simple joy she once had of just singing for herself. She's become totally dependent on what other people think, on the sound of applause. The poem says her ears were addicted to applause. Without an audience cheering for her, her art doesn't bring her any happiness at all. Her motivation has tragically shifted from a love of art to a need for praise.
So the money's gone, the audience is gone, and the frog is absolutely furious. He's not sad for her, of course not. He's angry about his lost income. And in his rage, he pushes the exhausted, terrified nightingale to her absolute breaking point.
He screams at her, calling her a brainless bird. He tells her to just follow fashion, to be flashier, to give the crowd what he thinks they want. And then he gives her one final, deadly order. Puff your lungs out with your passion. Now, this isn't artistic advice. This is a cruel, desperate command from a greedy, failed manager.
And the nightingale, she's trembling, terrified of failing him, so she obeys. She puffs up her chest, trying with all her might to force a powerful sound from her exhausted body. And in that moment, she bursts the vein and dies.
And what's the frog's reaction? Is he sad? Does he feel guilty? Not at all. He just blames her. He dismisses her as a stupid creature, someone who is far too prone to influence. He takes zero responsibility for what he's done. In fact, he uses her death as final proof of his own so-called superiority.
The story itself is over, but the lessons are what make this poem so incredibly important. So what can we learn from this tragic fable about our own world?
Let's do a quick recap of our two main characters. On one side, you've got the frog. He's the exploiter, manipulative, arrogant, and totally motivated by money and power. And on the other side, you have the nightingale, the exploited. She's innocent, incredibly talented, and motivated by art, but her fatal flaw is that she's naive and deeply insecure.
And their story brings out some really big themes. This poem is a powerful warning about how innocent talent can be exploited by people with bad intentions. It shows the danger of not believing in yourself, how that insecurity can open the door for manipulators. It's about how fake experts can control others, how art can be ruined when it becomes all about money, and about the powerful and sometimes destructive influence of critics and society.
And here it is, the ultimate bitter irony of the whole poem. After he has caused her death, the frog says this. He has the nerve to say that your song must be your own, the very lesson he spent the entire poem stopping her from learning. He crushed her originality and then had the audacity to blame her for not having any.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What's the moral of the story? It's this. You have to believe in your own talent. Trust your own voice, your own instincts. Your song must be your own. Don't ever let someone else, especially a bully with selfish motives, control who you are.
And that leaves us with one final, tough question I want you to think about. Who do you think is more to blame here? Is it the cruel, manipulative frog who took advantage of her? Or does the nightingale herself have some responsibility for her own tragedy because she just couldn't find the confidence to believe in herself? Think about it. Have you ever seen people like the frog or the nightingale in your own life?